In this video, I'm going to show you how to create this popular design style using Adobe Illustrator from scratch. The intention of this video is to help you prepare for Christmas, because with this sort of ugly Christmas sweater design style, you can really apply this to any niche or any phrase and induce more sales because of that funny Christmas theme. So jumping into Illustrator, the first thing we're going to do is create a few decorative elements for ugly Christmas sweater, and then we're going to add the text and make sure that the layout looks nice and balanced. But to create those decorative elements, you want to select the rectangle tool. You can also hit M on your keyboard to do that. Make sure that you've got just a fill selected, no stroke color. And well, in my case, I'm using white because I've turned the artboard to black. So to get started, just click anywhere in the artboard, hold down Shift to make sure it stays in perfect square proportions. And then we can copy this square while holding down Alt and move it down so it meets the corner of our first square. So this is what you're going to want to create. If you're struggling with that, it might be because you have your smart guides disabled, and to find those, head up to View and Smart Guides. So that option has to be ticked, and that way it'll be way easier to align elements to one another. Now, if we zoom out a little bit, all you have to do is select both of these squares, hold down Alt, click and drag, and then hold down Shift as well, so these stay in line. And once again, draw them over until the edges meet right here, the corners, and then you can just click Ctrl D on your keyboard to duplicate that process a lot of times. And as you can see, that's creating a very nice and easy pattern to start off with as a decorative element. So the next thing I'm going to show you is a snowflake. This is a little bit harder and more advanced, but it's a very common sort of thing that's used in these designs. And once you've created one of them, you can always reuse it in hundreds of other designs. So it'll definitely be worth the effort. Once again, we need the rectangle tool again. We will draw out our first square. Now in this case, you'll want to drag this square over, once again while holding down Alt to copy it, drag it over while holding down Shift, and we need 3 next to each other basically. If you're not sure if they are perfectly next to each other, in case they're overlapping, you can also hit Ctrl Y on your keyboard for the outline mode, because sometimes you think they're lined up, but actually they're overlapping. The outline mode is really handy for that. Hit Ctrl Y to exit that again. And now we need to select just the 2 squares on the left, hit Alt, click on them and drag them upwards while holding down Shift, so they sit on top of our first 3 squares. And now we need to move one over to the left, and the same thing again, just to repeat that process, move 2 on the left up and another one out, so it's sort of hanging over the edge. Now the next step is going to be copying all of these squares over in one go. So select them all, hold down Alt and draw them over. And now you're going to need the Reflect tool, which you can access by hitting O on your keyboard. And you're going to want to click anywhere in the artboard and then hold down Shift while you're dragging your cursor, and the angle that you're looking for is -135 degrees. Once you've found that angle, then just let go of your mouse, go back to the selection tool, and then you can move all of these squares up to the other ones. And this is the shape you want to create. So make sure there's basically 2 squares in the middle that are empty and sort of forming a gap, and the long edges are pointing up and to the left. Next up, we're going to use the rulers. If you don't see the rulers, hit Ctrl R on your keyboard and they'll show up right here along the top and left. And if you click onto the rulers, you can draw out a guideline. And the first one is going to be on the edge right here. And the second one, if you draw one down from the top, is going to be on the bottom edge. And just drop it there. And that's going to help us align a new square right here. That square is going to be part of the design, and it's also going to help us rotate this part of the snowflake over so we have a symmetrical shape. That's basically going to be the next step. So select all of these squares minus the one in the middle, hit R on your keyboard for the rotate tool, and then try and find the center of your square down here. Once it says center and it's highlighted, you want to click Alt on your keyboard and then left click. As you can see, if you type in -90 degrees or 90 degrees, it doesn't really matter, and select the preview, then it's going to be rotated around this square. Next step is going to be hitting copy right here, and then you can just click Control D on your keyboard twice to have this rotated all the way around. And if I now delete the guides, second, click guides and zoom out a little bit, you can see that we've got a very nice looking ugly Christmas sweater snowflake right there. And this snowflake we can now scale down a little bit and duplicate across multiple times to once again create a very nice suitable decorative element for our design. So now you've got a few pattern elements to work with. There is loads and loads of more that you can do. There's hearts, Christmas trees, there's reindeer, all sorts of stuff you could create. Just Google ugly Christmas sweater patterns and you could use them as inspiration. They're all usually made up of tiny little squares and fairly easy to replicate. So now I'm actually going to put some text onto this design and start creating a layout. The phrase I'm going to use today is Merry Drunk I'm Christmas, which is a design that I noticed doing well, but there was no option for an ugly Christmas sweater design. So I thought I'd create that version for you. Basically, you want to select the type tool. The font I'm going to use is called Multi-Type Pixel Compact, and that font is from Creative Fabrica. I will leave a link down below in the description so you can get it yourself if you want to, if you're signed up to Creative Fabrica. And I'm going to write Merry Drunk at the top. So change that color to white. Make this text a bit bigger. Merry Drunk. And now you'll basically just have to work out a layout where you've usually got text enclosed in between these patterns. So I'll just use the stripy one along the top and the snowflakes underneath, and then make the text match the size or the width, I should say. So that's a good start right there. I will drag this text down while holding down Alt and Shift, and then maybe I'll put I'm in the middle right here, and then Christmas underneath, because I want Christmas to be quite big, because that's obviously the main topic of this design. There we go. So that's it for the rest of the text layout. I want to draw down some of these decorative elements, and you don't have to follow this exactly. You can very easily come up with like a different layout in terms of the decorative objects or the text. There's no real right or wrong. You just want to try and strike some sort of balance where it's not overloaded with text or not overloaded with just decorative stuff. So I'll draw this down to the bottom. Now, I think it would be a cool idea for this design, because it has to do with drinking or being drunk, to also add some sort of pixelated objects of drinking. So you could create some beer bottles, you could create some wine glasses, stuff like that, and just make this design more suitable for its niche. I'm going to quickly do that and not show you the process because it's fairly easy. Again, you just have to use squares. Then you can obviously put those other designs in here as well. So I'll just skip forward. So here we go, we've got a wine glass in pixelated form and a beer mug. If you want to see how I did this, I'll just go into outline mode so you can see the squares and sort of how they're aligned. I'll just select them, that might be easier. Basically, you don't have to have every single object in these designs pixelated. You could just find some normal silhouettes of wine glasses, beer bottles on Creative Fabrica or Vexels, and then just insert them into here. I just thought I'd do the entire design like this and give you a bit more inspiration or ideas. So now that we've got that laid out, there's still a little bit of blank space or white space along the top right here. For that, we're going to create a very simple pattern right here with the rectangle tool, and just move this up right here so the corners meet, and then draw these two down, and there we have it. Very, very easy little decorative element that we can now put on top of these drinks, and it sort of looks like it kind of gives them more of an alcoholic feel, as if they're sort of bubbly or sparkling, but it also looks Christmassy at the same time. So let's just copy all of this over, select all of them in one go. Right, we have to move that one up a bit. There we go. And the goal here is just to fill out some of the white space around our text and objects. And now the last step is going to be adding a color scheme, and I think very suitable for Christmas. We're just going to go with green, red and white. That always works really well. And I'm going to select the first decorative element, basically head over to the color picker up here and just use a preset green. Don't have to make it too complicated. And then this next line of decorative elements, the text always gets in the way. Really annoying. If you need to deselect the text, hold down Shift and click on it, and then it will only be the rest of the objects that you drew your box over initially. So these ones I'm going to change to red. And now you could quickly use the eyedropper tool for the rest of these elements. So hit I on your keyboard to access that and just color pick from the existing green and red colors. And there we go, that's the final layout done and the colors applied. And now that you've finished this one design, you can very easily exchange the text and the design objects right here in the future to target lots of different audiences, lots of different niches, and yeah, create lots of nice Christmas themed designs. If you feel like you learned something new from this video, and if you want to level up your t-shirt design skills, then make sure to check out my playlist of over 20 design tutorials where I show you lots of different styles and tricks of how to improve your designs.